Fires are a natural and common part of Australian summers, but as our impact on the climate increases, fire seasons get longer, hotter and drier. This leads to more fires that are harder to contain. Thankfully, we have many measures to help combat this threat. As time goes on, research and technologies advance as well as our tactics. One of these key tactics is something called hazard reduction burning. Hazard reduction burning is the act of setting smaller, controlled fires to reduce the amount of fuels in a certain area. By reducing the amount of fuels in an area, any uncontrolled fires that may happen in the bushfire season will be easier to contain and lower intensity. When done well, hazard reduction burns can save lives. However, in recent years, there's been growing discourse about whether we're doing our burns correctly. The Sustainable Development Goal I have chosen for this project is SDG 15, Life on Land. SDG 15 seeks to protect, restore, and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, sustainably manage forests, combat desertification, halt and reverse land degradation, and halt biodiversity loss, as well as promoting sustainable use of Earth's ecosystems, loss of natural habitats and land degradation, and preserving biodiversity so that communities can flourish. The health and biodiversity of our natural ecosystems is massively important to ensure the resilience and health of our communities and economies in a rapidly changing climate. Controlled burns have a long history in Western Australia. Before colonisation, Aboriginal Australians have been regularly doing cultural burns for thousands of years. These burns had many purposes, but one major effect they had was decreasing the amount and severity of bushfires. In modern day, hazard reduction burns have become a foundational tool in fire prevention. Policy and decisions about the conduction of these burns are often made at the state level. However, hazard reduction burns can have major effects on local ecosystems and residents. Many advocates for more localized fire management say ensuring controlled burn effectiveness and efficiency often requires knowledge and consideration of the local area that state governments don't have. One study covering exactly this topic is To Burn or Not to Burn: Governance of Wildfire in Australia. To Burn or Not to Burn: Governance of Wildfires in Australia discusses the merits and drawbacks of adaptive governance in managing governance around bushfires. Adaptive governance is a form of governance that prioritizes flexibility in regards to complex and multifaceted problems. Because of how many considerations must be made when governing bushfires, bushfire-related governance is particularly suited to such a strategy. This study looks at the lessons that can be learned from an Australian local government's experience implementing a risk management strategy. It explores the role of adaptive governance and local knowledge in fostering resilience and preserving biodiversity. Bushfire, prescribed burning, and non-human protection provides valuable insight into how controlled burns affect wildlife and biodiversity, as well as the frameworks that policymakers can apply to minimize harm and maximize benefits. Mechanisms by which growth and succession limit the impact of fire in a southwestern Australian forested ecosystem covers how southwestern Australian forests' natural cycles interact with the amount of impact wildfires have, as well as how human activities affect and change it. My final research project will engage with these academic sources to investigate how Armidale's updated Bushfire Risk Management Plan works with the latest research on supporting biodiversity to keep Western Australia's fragile ecosystem safe and healthy. As our climate changes and bushfire seasons become longer and more intense, it is important that we evolve to meet these new challenges.